Hi everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to show you how I acclimate plants I receive after shipping. I actually got some plant mail that just came in today, so I'm pretty excited to unbox this. This has been a Hoya that I've been wanting for some time, and I have no idea how it's coming, if it's bare root or in a pot, so we're going to see, and I'll give you some tips that I've learned over the past year and a half of collecting houseplants on how I acclimate them to make sure they thrive once they're in their new home. Okay, so I'm gonna open the box. Let's see how it's packaged. Seems packaged pretty well. As you can see, it's taped into the box so it doesn't move around very much, which seems like a good sign. I'm not feeling a pot, but I do see some soil in the box. So I'm guessing that there was soil around the roots. Okay, so I have the plant out of the box. I'm gonna gently cut this tape here. I want to make sure I'm being really gentle so I don't cut any leaves or anything like that. Okay, it's going to be a little messy. So there's a ton of polyfill around the plant, and here it is. So here she is. This is a Hoya Chelsea with the cutest little leaves, and she's actually like bigger than I expected, so that's pretty exciting. She's wrapped in some what looks like toilet paper maybe, or tissue paper, and I can see that there is soil around her roots. So I've already spilled soil everywhere, but I'm going to try to open this gently over a box and just see the condition of the roots. So that's kind of step one. Whenever I get a new plant from shipping, I do a really thorough check of the roots and all of the leaves. That's probably really loud. Let me retake that. Okay, so one of the first things I do whenever I receive a plant in the mail is I do a really thorough check of its roots and of its leaves. The leaves first, just to make sure there are no pests. Even if there are no pests visibly, I still do a preventative treatment, which I'll go over in a second. But I also like to check the roots just to make sure there's no rot or no other issues there, or maybe there aren't a lot of roots. It's a good thing to know, so that's why I always check them. I will say though, if the plant does already come in a pot, it's potted up, usually I won't check the roots right away because I don't want to disturb the plant, so I'll just leave it unless I'm noticing a lot of damage to the plant or a lot of issues. So this plant, let me hold it up without trying to spill dirt everywhere. As you can see, has a pretty solid root system. There's roots kind of everywhere, a lot of soil, and so I'm not seeing any sort of damage to the roots or anything like that. So this type of plant I will now bring over to my sink. I'm going to rinse off all of the leaves, try to be really thorough with them to make sure to get any sort of dirt, pests, or anything that's potentially on them off of them. And then I have a Neem Oil Solution. That's a mixture of neem oil, castille soap, and water that I will spray all over the entire plant. That's basically a pest preventative to make sure that pests aren't coming onto the plant. If I did notice pests on the plant when it arrived, I would probably use a little bit of a stronger insecticide to kill all the pests on it. But since I'm not seeing any sort of pests on any of the leaves, I'm gonna do the preventative solution. And one thing to note is when you are checking your leaves for pests, make sure to really check thoroughly the front and the back of the leaves. The back of the leaf is usually where you can see pests, in my experience at least, especially where the leaf meets the stem. Pests seem to love to hang out there, so make sure you really do a thorough check of that area. So I'm gonna bring this over to my sink, rinse it off, and then go find a pot that I can put this in. Okay, so I am in my bathroom now, about to rinse off the plant. I do have a strainer in my sink to make sure not too much dirt goes down my sink. If you could do this outside with a hose, that would probably be easier, create less of a mess, but I live in an apartment, we don't really have an outdoor area, so I'm just gonna do it in here. So I'm just gonna try to rinse off all of the leaves as best as I can. I'm not trying to rinse all of the soil off, but if some of it does come off, that's totally fine. So here we go. Okay, now that all the leaves have been rinsed off, all the fronts and backs are clean, I'm gonna get my preventative pest spray and spray the entire plant down. So here is my neem spray that I labeled. I'll put the exact recipe of how I make this in the description, but it's pretty much just a mixture of 3 ingredients. And now I'll just go through and really spray it all over every single leaf. So this is to potentially kill any pests that are on here, even though I didn't see any, and prevent any new pests from coming. So I really don't think you can apply too much. I really just kind of go ham with it. all over everything. And you can get it in the soil as well in case there are larvae or anything living in the soil. Now, if I had noticed pests on the plant, I would have gone in with something a little bit stronger, like this insecticidal super soap by Bronner. This is really good to kill pests that you already have. This is what I used when we had spider mites on some of our plants. So that's what I would use if I had seen pests on the plant. So now that everything's kind of cleaned off and sprayed down, I found a little pot here, and I'm gonna pot it up in this, it's not terracotta, but it is clay. I'm gonna pot it up in here now. Okay, so I'm actually gonna do my repotting on the floor today because I don't have a table right now big enough to fit this whole potting mat. But I have my washed plant right here in the pot. I'm gonna put it in. And then I also have some of my soil mix. I mix my own soil myself to make a nice chunky mix. It has some perlite, charcoal, orchid bark, and some other stuff in there. But that is what I'm going to put this plant in. So as you can see, there's actually like quite a few different cuttings in here. The leaves are dirty, but I'll rinse the whole plant after I get it in the pot. So yeah, there are quite a few different little plants in here. So I'm gonna first put a base layer of soil. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. Then I'm gonna put some of the longer pieces in here. They all have pretty good roots, so I think they will do really well actually. So kind of balancing everything in here, all around the entire pot. Well, this pot actually, it's probably gonna outgrow this pot pretty quickly because as you can see, it's very full. But I'm gonna keep it in here for now, just for it to acclimate in a smaller pot, and then I can up pot it later in the summer if I have to. So now I'm gonna try to get soil in all the parts I missed. I'm a super messy repotter, so excuse all the soil spillage. Hard getting all the soil in between all these individual pieces, but I think we're pretty decent. I don't really want any of the leaves to be buried, so anything that got a little bit buried in the potting part, I'm gonna pull out a little bit just to make sure. Okay, I think everything is out and okay. Oh, one leaf here. Okay, so there's dirt all over the plant now, so I'm gonna go rinse this plant off quickly and I'll be right back to show you the finished product. Okay, so here is the final product. She's a little bit drippy, so I have her over a tray right now to collect any excess water, but she looks absolutely beautiful. I got most of the dirt off of her, and I did water her just to make sure, to get the soil kind of really around the roots and to give her some water in case she needed it after shipping. It is a Hoya though, so feeling the leaves, she doesn't seem dehydrated, so that's a good sign. So obviously this plant came kind of bare root, kind of in soil. I would do things differently depending on how the plant came. If the plant came bare rooted or in some sphagnum moss, I would get some of my own sphagnum moss, dampen it, and put the plant into a container with some spag. So that would pretty much look like this. Here is just a mason jar and there's some spag in it. And if I got a plant that just had bare roots, I would put it in something like this. There are some plants that I will just throw into water depending on the type of plant. Usually with Hoya, I'm more comfortable putting them in moss, but more common plants that we know propagate more easily, like maybe philodendron, like philodendron or things like that, I'll usually just pop in some water for a bit to let them grow a few more roots before I pot them up or put them in leca. And finally, the most important tip is whenever you bring a new plant into your home, make sure you keep it separated from the rest of your collection for at least a week minimum. Even if you don't see any pests and you treat it and do preventative things like the neem oil spray, pests can still be on the plant or in the soil that you may have missed, and you don't want to risk contaminating the rest of your collection. So I like to leave my plants in a decently well-lit place, a little bit of indirect sun, and I make sure that they're not near any other plants. There's no risk of pest infestation. Other than that, I make sure to monitor any new plant closely just so I can be aware if anything is happening or if it's having any issues with acclimating. So that is pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for following along in this video. Sorry it was a little bit shorter today. I am feeling a bit under the weather. I know I sound a little bit stuffy, so I did do a little bit of a shorter video today. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more planting content, and leave a comment down below on some tips or tricks you have to help acclimate your plants after shipping. Thank you so much for watching. Bye everybody.